Hey folks, finally got a chance to sit down and do a little Harris chain wrap up. Um, had to run home very quickly after the tournament for a family funeral, so a little late this is coming, but here it is. For those of you that followed along, you know I had a pretty good day one. I think I had 16 and a half, 16:10, and was sitting in 22nd place. And our second day was canceled or postponed due to high wind, and our third day I kind of crapped the bed, so to speak. So let's do a little recap. We'll talk about my practice. Um, my research looking ahead to Harris Chain showed that most of that offshore grass was gone. There was still a fair amount in Griffin, um, and the pattern that there's several patterns. There's the spawning fish pattern, the offshore pattern. Um, I got dialed into a fish spawning on in pad fields that I couldn't see, which was great. And I actually got bit doing this like an hour or two into my first day of practice, and I went around to a bunch of different areas. I think I had 5 different spots where I got like 3 or 4 bites. Never set the hook on anything. The key bait that I was using was a net bait T-Mac worm. As you can see, we got some dead soldiers here. So I was alternating between colors, was Okeechobee craw and Bama bug. I don't think it made that much of a difference, and this was a very simple setup. Texas rigged with a 3/8 ounce tungsten weight, and I switched something up a little bit with this. I'm always altering what I'm doing on the water, and I stopped pegging my weight. Instead, I've chosen to actually keep that 3/8 Great Lakes tungsten weight kind of sliding on the fluorocarbon. I put a bobber stop just up, and my reasoning behind this is I found when I pegged my weight, very often if I got up against some brush or some rocks or something, that weight would, oh, fish jumped right there. That weight would actually ball up the nose of the hook and kind of mess up the presentation. Now it still happens a little bit with this setup, but not nearly as much because that weight isn't already kind of jammed right up against there. So that's your standard 4-rod EWG hook, throwing it on 15-pound fluoro on a Halo kryptonite rod. This is a 7.2 medium heavy. There's been some revamps to this rod this year. It's now the KS3 series. So take a look at that. If you pop over to the American Baitworks website, you can get anything on the site with my code SIM-ABW 15% off. So this was what did all the damage. I had a fantastic Marshall day one. He put all kinds of video up online and filmed me as I was catching some fish. Let's take a look at some of those fish catches now. We actually started off missing our first fish. Not a good start. Then we picked up a few smaller ones. Maybe. I'm still gonna take a photo. Like a gymnast, man.
And I was recording that, just in case you're wondering. Oh my goodness.
And finally we started bumping into some of those 3.5 to 4.5 pounders that are super valuable. Big one. Yeah, baby. We need this.
Yes, nice. Nice.
Call that a 5-pounder.
Let me get a photo real quick. Yeah, I was videoing all that.
Number 5 pounds.
Perfect. Nice. Little grass on it. That time, huh?
Bike's picking up. Oh yeah, oh baby, oh baby.
Nice. Very nice. Okay, I got the video. Give it a nice hold up.
So let's backtrack. Day 1 of practice, I found my pattern early. I'd located a bunch of spots that kind of matched up a little bit. Day 2, I went out to Lake Griffin, where it was well known that there was lots of offshore hydrilla, and I spent pretty much the whole day in there, you know, checking some of the stuff in the marshes, some of the offshore stuff. Just such a big body of water, and I never really got anything in there to justify the hour and 10-minute run down there. I thought I just could camp out in my stuff in Big Harris and Eustis and Little Harris, and obviously that paid off day 1. I think I made one little misjudgment. I left my fish too early day 1. I knew that weather was coming. I knew it was going to change the conditions, and I decided at about 11 o'clock to pull off my my pad pattern, and I ran into a bunch of canals where I'd seen a few big fish. Unfortunately, they were gone. The canals were dirty. It was too late in the day. I think a lot of those canals got hit pretty hard first thing on day 1. So we had our day off. Fast forward to day 2, I go back to my pads, kind of knowing it's not going to work out. And sure enough, when I get there, the wind's blowing in, still blowing probably 15 miles an hour. The water temperatures dropped, get this, overnight, the water temperature dropped 18 degrees. So any fish that might have been up there looking to spawn or preparing to spawn, for sure they pulled out. So I stuck it out for about 40 minutes without a bite and gave up, went and hit some similar areas that were more protected, but it wasn't paying off. That weather change had really just messed up what I was doing. About noon, I ran into a couple canals, slightly clear water canals, and I managed to pick up 3 fish. A fourth one I actually hooked outside the mouth, which I had to let go. Unfortunately, I don't have any of that on footage. It was pretty rough out there, and my GoPro on my Yolotech stick kind of got ripped off my boat. Had a loose screw in the mount. My fault. Shout out to Luke Duncan at TH Marine. He helped me out with getting another Yolotech stick, so well, hopefully I have some footage for the next tournament. Ultimately, I'm pretty disappointed that I didn't have something to fall back on the second day. You live and learn. I'm always analyzing what happens. I think maybe that one mistake, kind of not pounding my fish harder day one, I think I could have maybe got 1 or 2 more good ones out of there. And the second day, I don't know, I could have I could have pulled the plug early, made the run down to Griffin and kind of grinded it out offshore. I'm disappointed I never found an offshore bite. I know some of my buddies did, and they did great. Shout out to Hunter Freeman, and of course shout out to my roommate Eric Luzak, who had a great finish. So that's the wrap up for Harris. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You got any comments, questions? Down below. And we'll get another video for you soon. Thanks for watching.